live.
Cool.
All right, looks like we're live now. Okay, so this is the continuing committee's April 2020 Board of Directors meeting. I'm Brian Schaefline, Director of Operations and Chairman. In attendance, we've got Maggie, Executive Officer. We've got Charlie Blaine, Director of First Edition, Nick Yankovic, Director of Second Edition, Chris Sonsonby, Director of Organized Play. Justin Ford, the Chief Financial Officer, is not with us this meeting. All right, first things first, approval of minutes from the last meeting. Anybody notice anything wrong with them?
I motion to approve.
All right,
I'll second.
All right, anybody opposed? Nope. All right, then I guess we'll consider them approved. Department reports. Maggie, you want to go first as executive?
Sure. I didn't do, according to my duties, that's running the period of review and working on projects for new players. Period of review stuff, I've been thinking about the membership, and this, I think coming up soon, probably this weekend, if I get a chance, I'm going to put up some posts about if we should, how, if at all, we should redefine the membership, because some people brought up the, during this year's period of review, brought up the idea that maybe not linking it to the premium membership per se, but just say, and not automatically giving volunteers a vote, but saying, if you want to be a, if you want to vote in the period of review, you need a, you need to pay like $5 for a different membership. Oh, sorry, Justin was waiting to get in. Just noticed him there. All right. All right. So as for new player initiatives, not much on that front today. I'll still, I'm trying to work on the frequently asked questions so we can have some more information for new players. Austin Chandler, Darksaber, our social media guys, working on a project to do some to do some public play test, or excuse me, not public play testing days, but demo days, and that's sort of kicked me in the pants, made me realize we really do need to do some rearranging on our new player resources. So those are on the list to work on, but nothing, sadly, nothing done for that. I have done a lot of other stuff. I think I wrote at least 3 articles in the last month, and 4 if you include the Director of Communication search. But that's on the old business, so I won't bring that in. But that's what I've got for executive officer business.
Okay, Charlie, first edition.
Well, we put out the neutral zone, which I think has gone really well. How many people did we end up starting off the neutral zone release tournament, Brian? It was like 14.
Yeah, I think it was 14.
That's pretty good, considering nobody can get together and play, but I saw lots of people were talking about deck building and printing out cards. So I think that went really well. Pretty good reception. Project Londo, which is the Klingon OS set, the follow-up, that went to playtesting a couple weeks ago. And it got a really good initial reception. There's some big ideas in there, but the testers have seemed largely receptive to what the set's trying to do, and they think a lot of it's in good shape to start, which probably means there will be a bunch of last-minute traps. That's kind of what happened in the neutral zone, but we're sort of aware of that pattern now, so we can anticipate it and guide it. This is the first set where Austin's been the playtest manager from the beginning, and he had some cool ideas that we're putting into place to get that moving, and expansions beyond that are going. Project Storm, they're digging in and working really hard. That'll probably go to testing next. once Londo's done. And I'm staffing up the movie block projects this weekend. I'm a little behind on where I want those to be, but got a lot of veteran designers on there that I'm excited about. Probably the biggest thing I wanted to mention is we're doing our first public playtesting event. And we're going to try out a new card pool for just TNG property logo cards. You can start working on that immediately. There's an article on the front page that sort of outlines what the definition is, and there's a discussion thread on the deck designs board, so you can theory craft. And then in June, I'm gonna run a online tournament using that card pool. So it's just missions and TNG property logo cards. We're gonna see how that plays, how fun it is, and if it's a viable option for a smaller card pool other than all cards that can still expand, because we can always release new ones. I'm excited about that. Got some other announcements coming soon. I'm very lucky to have the staff that I have and the passionate volunteers that I have, because it largely just runs itself, which allows me to focus on some bigger picture issues and some longer term changes that we want to make. But yeah, I just want to give a shout out to all the hardworking Winnie guys who are making it easy to be the director and get some long-term work done. The other game that I cover is Tribbles, and if you haven't seen on the front page, there's a teaser card asking what bright primary colors have to do with it, because there's a new Tribbles set coming very soon. Just ironing out the last couple proofreading issues, and I'm excited to put out new Tribbles for the first time in a while and see what people think. So that's where Winnie and Tribbles are. There are some big things coming, so stay tuned.
All right, Nick, I know you guys had a new set, so how's second edition?
Apologies first of all, because the past month's been a bit tough for me, so I've kind of dropped the board a bit on this. The Omega Directive has released. I'm not quite sure how that's gone down at the moment. I plan to start looking into that today. And apart from that, I'm afraid I haven't done much the past month. Once again, this weekend I'll be getting back into it. All right, so not much report from me, I'm afraid, this month.
It's understandable.
The reception for the Omega Directive seems good. I've seen a lot of people speculating about what decks they might build and how they're going to use the 50-point missions, and what you can do with this thing or that thing. So the reception's been very good. Those cards have definitely received a positive reception so far.
Good.
We've got communications listed as the next department, but we don't currently have a director. That's an item later on in the agenda. Maggie, do you think there's anything communications department related that we need to address?
Well, I mean, besides just saying we're still searching for a new chief ambassador. So that position is open on the boards. Daniel Madison has stepped back to be our writing team manager. So that position's covered now, and people are writing articles. Michael Shea is starting a new article series as of today. So if you don't, for second edition. So if you didn't notice, there's an article today about cards from, whatever the Matt Decker episode is. So I'm having a brain fart right now.
The Doomsday Machine.
The Doomsday Machine. Thank you, Charlie. So he wrote an article speculating on cards that could be made from the Doomsday Machine. So that's I believe that he's going to try to make that a new weekly series, looking at different episodes and writing up about some of the cards from those episodes. So that's a new feature to watch out for. I'm hoping that'll get some positive feedback. But yeah, and we're still looking for a chief ambassador, and we're still looking for a director of communications.
Okay. Chris, you want to jump ahead and do organized play? I know you have a game coming up at the end of the meeting, so. Are you there, Chris? No?
He's
Okay, then.
muted. He may not think he's muted. He's muted.
Yeah, I was muted. I think. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, organized play is kind of in a very interesting time. As everybody knows, we're not gathering for in-person tournaments, but we are playing online. I'm fortunate, just like Charlie said, that the two guys who report to me, Michael and Jules, are playing online in just about every tournament that they can. Michael's been running some tournaments, so if you're missing your Star Trek fix, you should jump online and play with Michael or play with Jules or play with the three of us. In fact, that's what Brian alluded to. I have an online game here at 11 my time to finish up the 1E regional that's going online right now. Obviously, with the challenges facing organized play and the greater world with COVID-19, I've reached out to about a dozen individuals throughout the world, different continents, different countries, just trying to get an idea of what their specific situation is as far as travel, as far as playing. Nick, I think I reached out to Patty on your side because I knew you were having some other stuff going on in the UK, and just trying to gauge where the world is, right? Because when we're here in the U.S., all we hear is the news from the U.S. or in my case, Minnesota. They're focusing on just the Midwest. So yeah, at this point, we're not making any decisions about the organized play calendar going forward, but we are reaching out, trying to figure out what the best approach is. If that means we postpone events, run events online, just trying to gauge how that is, or maybe all told, it'll blow over, and we'll be all still meeting in August in Chicago for Worlds. So it's definitely a trying time, and all I can say as far as the organized play team goes is get those tournaments input in the system. Even a 24-hour notice, and grab two friends and play. I mean, a lot of us have downtime right now. The best thing to do is to just keep reconnecting and playing the game. So, as of right now, no major decisions. Everything is on schedule as it is currently scheduled, but we are looking at what we need to do going forward. Eyes wide open.
Okay. Let's see, ops, that'd be my department. So there's a bunch of raffle prizes and tournament kits that still need to be shipped. I'm hoping that those go out soon so that all of our recent tournaments that have just started or just ended get their prize support. The new Lackey integration seems to be working well. I haven't heard any big complaints from anyone about any bugs or any other issues. Added a couple more links to make it more convenient just to export any public deck from the deck list itself. So if you're looking at somebody else's deck and you just want to copy that straight into Lackey, there's a link now that you can do that right from the deck. Marcus Everling has been updating the Lackey plugins, so the new sets are all in there, ready to be used. And he's done a couple other little, one or two cards that we find missing or errors or whatever. He's fixed those. I do have a question for, you guys all play 2E more than I have. Deckpad, Maggie mentioned that it doesn't really get used much anymore on the 2E side. So are those links necessary for exporting from our site? Anybody want to talk about that? No, huh? No opinions
I-
other
They
than
might-
Maggie's?
I was going to say they might be muted.
Deckpads, I don't know that. I mean, I know there were people who used to use it, but I don't know if any of them play anymore. I know I haven't
It hasn't
updated
been
it.
updated in 3. Yeah, it hasn't been updated in 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would imagine what Maggie said. We should just let Jared Hoffman know we're pulling it down and, you know, just take it off the site.
Okay. All right, then I'll get the process going on that. The other thing we're doing over in ops is obviously the site upgrade project. I plan to requisition a separate server so that our software development and testing can happen without messing with anything on the actual live sites. And I've gone just about as far as I can go testing the upgrade path locally. So we would actually need to put another server live. And then that would allow the whole programming team to work on it, and they'd have access to that. The reason we can't do it on the live site is we're going to be breaking a lot of things over and over and over again, and we don't want to disrupt the actual operations of the live site. So yeah, that's why I'd be getting a new testing server specifically for that. All right, Justin, how's the finance office going? You're muted.
Justin, you're muted.
Yep. Figure. Yeah, not much activity going on. And yeah, I totally dropped the ball on this one. Did not mark my calendar for Sunday, and thought it was Sunday, and forgot it was Saturday this month. Yeah, not much going on past 30 days. I have still not received anything from Jeremy. I know he probably wants to get paid. So I will send him an email and see what's going on there, if he needs anything or what we can do to get that done, because I'm sure he needs to get paid.
I don't know that they're operating right now, so
Okay.
you might not have access to print the invoices or whatnot.
I'll see what's going on, because yeah, we want to make sure we pay for stuff and not leave him hanging. Today is on the book. I'm not doing any work today. I'm focusing on track stuff. I've got a laundry list of stuff that needs to get done. I need to log in and get the renewal done and get all of the stuff done for the next year. So that's going to happen today. But yeah, not much going on, since we're all in a holding pattern basically with the coronavirus. So yeah.
Okay. Let's see, old business. Maggie, you already alluded to Director of Communication Search. Any updates on that?
I have a wonderful volunteer group who has nothing to do because we have no applicants.
All right.
So if you
Everybody hear that?
Yeah. So for the public, we have a vacancy in this meeting. If you are interested in being our Director of Communications, there is an application open. You may access it. I believe I actually have, I put it up. Yeah, it's if you go and look at the volunteer site, the application, there's a link to the application there for Director of Communications, or you can read the article. That should still be up in the front page right now. So if you are interested in being Director of Communications, please fill out the application. I will leave it open until we have, applicants.
Okay. I don't know that there's much else we can talk about if there's no one applying for the job. Charlie, how's the rainbow foil paper conversation going?
Well, I got an email from the guy out of the blue yesterday, completely ignoring all of my other emails, but saying that they found some paper and they wanted to know if we wanted it, which I said yes, but he has not answered me again. So the man is not a master of prompt communication, but there's at least some of it available, and I'm still trying to find out if we can negotiate, you know, partial payments to do the rest of it, or and find out exactly how much we're going to get. But like I said, I emailed him several times in March and didn't hear back until 24th. So it's excuse me, excuse me. I am struggling to get the answers to the questions that I need. I asked him for a phone number. All I have is the office phone number, and nobody has picked up there. I think understandably. So I don't have a better update for you on that because I don't know, but at least apparently they have some in stock, and if we can get that, then at least we'll be able to do this year and next year's worth, or run them all as borderless and stock those up, or something. But I don't have answers to the larger picture. But I think that we should, you know, assuming that he doesn't try to price gouge us or whatever, we should try to get all that stock that they have left and hoard it. So it'd be nice to plan that out and figure out what we can do and what we can't do. But based on the information that I have, it would be, I made some assumptions based on what we've paid for in the past and how much that has cost, but it would be approximately 10 years worth of foil paper if we bought the whole roll at the rate that we're using it now. And I would assume that we would slow that down, knowing that this is all we've got left. So it could probably stretch it into the 15-year mark, which makes that $1,000 price point a lot more tolerable in my mind, because it's paying for 10 years worth of product. So, but I'm still waiting on answers to my questions. So I don't have a better answer for you yet.
Okay. The next.
And
Go ahead.
on that point, so because Justin's told us before that, you know, we said last meeting that the $1,000 was probably too much, it might be out of reach. We might want to consider doing something like a GoFundMe, because I know that there are people who are terribly interested in getting those rainbow foils. Like that, there's collectors out there who really like them. So maybe we could, if we did like a GoFundMe, or excuse me, like a Kickstarter or something for that, to fund the foil paper, we could say, hey, if you put in this much, we'll send you X number of borderless promos or something like that. So that might be something we would consider. We could consider to fund the rainbow paper.
If we're going to do a fundraiser, we'll need to add the charities license. Right now, we don't have the charities license, and so fundraising, we'll need to add that if we want to do that.
Okay, so what's involved with that?
It's like $65 a year. So I'd have to, if we want to do that, I'll just have to include that in the renewal.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay. Next old business thing is the COVID-19, which I think everyone has pretty much chimed in already. You know, we're all just getting by, trying to assess what needs to be done as new information comes about. And I don't know that. Yeah, Maggie.
Well, I was going to say we probably need to let people know sooner rather than, at least we need to decide on a go no go date for Worlds this year, because right now, for those of you who are not in this community who do not intimately follow the news from Illinois, our governor just extended the stay-at-home order here till May 30th, because they don't think that we're going to have a peak here until mid-May. And then I don't know, obviously we don't know where things are going to go from there. So, just keeping people in the loop about what's happening here in Illinois. I'm going to start, but we should probably figure out at least a go no go date for Worlds. Are we going to do it online? Are we going to do, or at least have a solid contingency plan? So if we don't, if Illinois is not opened up, if we can't travel to the, if the travel bans aren't lifted, and people can't come from abroad, because I don't want a Worlds that's just, hey, people can travel from Minnesota and Michigan, but they can't come from other states, or they can't come from other countries. So we need a solid plan on, are we going to postpone till the fall, or are we going to do online, or what are we going to do?
I just find that I think it's going to be very unlikely that anyone from Europe will be able to get over there for August. The way things are going over here, it's being extended all the time. I can't see that.
And I mean,
Big plus.
let's face realities. There are, no matter where you fall on the sides of this debate, there are different philosophies to how different states are approaching this. And we as a country are going to do well as the worst responses, right? You know, if some states open everything and let people start traveling, and that ticks up the infection rate, it's going to happen not just in that state. It's going to happen all over, and it's going to chain react. So I agree that we're making the right call and not making a decision right now, but we need a drop dead date, and we need it, we probably need it to be sooner than we would want it to be. And I think that we should have a contingency plan ready to go. So Chris and Maggie and whomever should start figuring it out.
And I think that's part of what Chris was talking about. He was reaching out to everyone all across the world to see what their current outlook is, see how that might be changing, so that the organized play could start coming to that conclusion on where and when to make that call. That was my understanding of what Chris was doing by reaching out to everyone. But I would say, if we all agree, we should probably have on the agenda for the next meeting actually having that decision made, or whether it's organized plays decision entirely, or we're voting on that as a board. I think on the next meeting we should have that in place. Anyone have an opinion on that?
I'm good with putting that on the agenda for the May meeting.
When is World scheduled? What's the dates?
August 6th through 9th.
And what's 3 months before that? Is that May?
Yeah, that's actually 3 months before that is next weekend, more or less. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2
See,
weeks from now.
I don't. There are a lot. This is very complicated because we have to. Because there are going to be, like, if anybody has booked travel, I think we have to make the decision while this is ongoing, so that they can say this event was canceled because of the pandemic, and I get my money back. Because otherwise, I think people might be. I don't know. I don't know that. I think we should just no later than next meeting. This needs to be decided. So
Right. I think am I finally unmuted? Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yes.
I keep talking to myself, and then I'm like, why doesn't anybody hear me? Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Brian, you're hitting the nail on the head. I'm reaching out to all these different countries: South Africa, Australia, Germany, Austria, UK. Even hotspots. I contacted Michael over in Washington State, and I've thought about if I should reach out to somebody from New York, but I couldn't figure out who that was when I was doing this. But yeah, the whole plan. Okay. Well, yeah, I suppose he's close enough, isn't he? He's Buffalo, but that's still in the state of New York. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, I mean, the whole thought is I'm trying to gather some feedback. I need to know, make an informed decision, right? We don't want to have 5,000 people who are not even going to Worlds commenting. I just need to know, what's the status in your country? If you guys, like Jules has indicated, he doesn't think Austria is going to be allowed to fly anywhere the rest of 2020. That's good information, right? That's a good chunk of very good players who couldn't go even if they wanted to. We need to know the information, and then Maggie and I will obviously huddle up and talk to some of the other players who are definitely planning to travel, and make a decision on a go date based on the information we get. So if you did receive an email from me asking about how it is in your country or in your area, please respond. That is going to directly impact how we move forward with the organized play calendar this year.
Yeah, to my knowledge, I know of two Europeans who have booked their tickets, but that was way back in December that they let me do that. They let me know about that, but I haven't specifically heard from. And I have a couple of requests from friends who from folks who are like, can I stay in your basement? And I'm like, of course. So but I don't know if they've actually bought tickets yet.
Right. I think everybody is on the same page. We want Worlds in Chicago to be a monumentous success. I want to see personally 20 plus 30 people there. I don't think either Maggie or I want it to be the guys who drive down with me plus Maggie's players. Like, that's not what we're envisioning the World Championship to be. So we are very aware of the situation and trying to make decisions with the best information that we can gather at this point. So again, please provide input if I reached out to you.
And one thing that I would like from ops, if possible, is we know that there's some security issues for Lackey, cheating, possibilities for cheating and things like that. Would Marcus be able to look at that, and if there's any improvements that he could make, where things like you can't look at your own dilemmas in 1E once you've put them out on the table? I don't know if that's even possible.
We've both looked at that, and that's just a Lackey thing, that we can't change that without having access to the source code, and Lackey's developer hasn't been active in 6 years. So, but that's just the way it is with Lackey. We made what improvements we could with the piles and whatnot for the games, but the visibility is a very basic feature of Lackey that no one has ever been able to change.
Have we?
I reached out to him 5 years ago or so, maybe not even that long, about either licensing or buying it, and it never really went anywhere because we transitioned to the board model. But I know the guy, and I could reach out to him again, and if that could be on the table, but we'd have to figure out what kind of money we have to work with, because it's not going to be free. So. Well,
and I just think, if you reach out to him, it doesn't hurt, right? You say, hey, we might have to run our game online this year. Can we get an idea how your source code works, just so we can make these tiny changes so we close holes that people can cheat? Maybe he'll be receptive to that. You never know. Doesn't hurt to ask.
I mean, I would be curious to know what the price point would be. We could, if we could buy it, buy the source code from him, just to get a number to see what that looks like. Then we can have that discussion, because it could be worthwhile. I mean, we use a lot of online play, between the dojo and the non-dojo online play, and especially with COVID-19, our community could be shifting fully online. So it could definitely be an investment that's worthwhile and neat.
Yeah, and I know Brian and others have dabbled at making a replacement, a winning specific replacement, which is certainly a route to go down too. But I can reach out and ask the question, I suppose, or I can make an introduction with Brian, or I can do both of those things, and then we can see what we have as an option, because
I mean, it gave me again where we buy the source code, but we keep it open for all the other games, so he doesn't lose we just get the ownership, but we keep it open for everyone else to reduce the price down to possibly.
I can reach out and see where we're at and report back if there's interest. I mean, I don't want to undercut Brian here, because it's really kind of his call.
No, that's fine, because the other option is just to roll our own, and that's, I don't know, 1,000 man hours probably, just off the top of my head.
That seems like a lot more work than just trying to tweak the platform somebody else already has.
The issue though is that I know in the past other people have asked how they can either help him develop it or license it, and it's never gone anywhere. So I'm not hopeful for that, but maybe things change in the past 5 years. I don't know. But but we'll see, I guess.
The worst that can happen is I ask and we get told nothing or nothing happens.
Right. Yep, that's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that, Charlie. And also if that means that you can fix the log so that it doesn't say he did this and he did that for me, which I'm starting to find more annoying now than I used to, that would be amazing.
Okay, so I think that's everything on COVID-19. The other old
I
business.
think at this
Oh,
point,
sorry,
I
go
better buy. I better bow out. I got that online game. I gotta go play.
All
All
right.
right, see ya. Good luck.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay, so the last old business thing was extending or removing the recent activity for tournament director requirements for buying passes. And Chris Lobbin, programming team leader, basically made that change immediately after we finished the last meeting. So that time frame is now 15 months instead of where it was 6 months before. So if you've run a tournament anytime in the past 15 months, you can buy a pass for another kit. Yeah, so that's done. We can check that off. New business.
Good job.
Yeah, timeline for the release of promo series XX and P. Maggie, I think you requested that agenda item.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that people knew that those cards are assembled now and are in Dan's hands. So anytime we wanted, so if Nick and Charlie wanted to start putting those into kits for people to buy, we can do that now. So I didn't know if you all knew that those were available.
Is there any, I mean, yes, but is now the time to do that when, I mean, we should look at making them available for online tournaments, I guess, but nobody's running local tournaments. And if people are buying them, they're probably just going to sit unused. So do we go ahead and put them up and let them buy them to have them stockpile? Or do we wait and put them out later when they're more likely to go directly to actual in-person tournaments again? I'm not trying to make them exclusive or anything. I'm just asking, is now the time to release them just to get cash flow and new cards out there? So.
Well, I think the problem is we still have, there's a long list of unsent things in the promenade right now. So even if people order them now, I don't know when they would possibly get them. So I actually don't, thinking about it a bit more, until that backlog's pushed out, I can't see putting new stuff up to be on order. It doesn't seem fair if people buy things and then they're not going to get sent for 2 months or 3 months or however long.
Yeah.
I agree. Maybe once the backlog is cleared, that's when we put them out.
Yep. Oh, I guess I'll just reach out to Dan again to see what's happening.
I mean, I would say as soon as Dan feels he's ready, let Nick and I know, and we can schedule the promos and get them spoiled up. So.
Okay.
It's too bad, Charlie, because that new promo set P would be really good for your public playtesting.
Yes, it would. It would, but we'll deal with that when we deal with that. So
now you've made me curious.
It's TNG versions of non-TNG cards, so it would be 9 new cards to that particular card pool. A couple new dilemmas. I have to go look now. Hang on. It's been a year since I looked at those cards. I think Stellar Flare is one of them. Not even set up. Let's see.
Charlie, I think your mic went wonky. If you're talking, you're very, very quiet.
Yeah, it does that. I was muttering to myself too. So.
Well, I guess if we're delaying, you can figure that out and reveal them on your own agenda or on your own schedule, right? You and Nick.
We just need. I just don't want to put them up until Dan's ready. And I agree with clearing the backlog, but just glancing over the look, there's some really good choices here.
Okay, we'll consider that a teaser. All right, Maggie and Charlie, I think you guys both asked about, are we making too many cards? That's the next agenda item. And I don't know what brought up that question. So who wants to take that?
That was actually it was sort of a throwaway comment from me on, there was a discussion on the TUI staff board about one of the TUI staff asked the question basically, why have we cut the size of second edition sets? But first edition is putting out 63 card sets, like the neutral zone was very large. And so I put forth and this person is really a TUI only player. So he has very little knowledge of first edition as it stands. And so basically I pointed out that because of template size, we can put a lot more text on second edition cards than on first edition cards. So, like I pointed out when we were doing if you take a second edition, an old backwards compatible card, and you look at the conversion of a lot of those, it actually required multiple cards to do the same thing. So, and basically part of what I pointed out, part of what I said was I felt that we weren't getting enough play testing in on the second edition side. And, I didn't think that in my personal opinion, I didn't feel comfortable with the larger sets because I don't think we're getting enough play testing. And that was where that all came from. But that was me, speaking my opinion on things.
Yep.
So,
I think I asked for it to be on the agenda because I've heard that comment from people more than once. And I just wanted to make sure it was something that we talked about because people have brought it up and it should go. It feels like a decision that, I think Chris should be here for and we should just be aware of and maybe get a sense of what people think. I mean, it's a fine line. So go ahead, Nick, sorry.
Yeah, I'm very aware of what's been said and what's going on. At least temporarily, I'm going to stick to the 27 card sets, especially as playtesting is still an issue. Once we can get that sorted out, then we can look at increasing the size if the sets warrant them. And I've said before, if the designers come up with a fantastic idea that needs more than 27 cards, that is definitely something we can look at. But for the moment, 27 card sets.
Yeah, and even, we used to do 90 or 99 and then 45, 50, 45, 50. And this past time we switched to just 63, 63, 63. And even that's probably big. But like Maggie mentioned, I mean, any 1E personnel and ship is pretty basic for the most part, So a lot of them probably count as like a fraction of the work of any given 2E card. Even dilemmas are you're limited to 3 lines of game text. Now that doesn't mean they can't be play tested or can't be crazy or broken, but like just 1E templates don't give you as much room for bananasness that 2E templates do. And it's mostly just finding interactions that you have to be careful of, which is true of everything. So there's no I just want, there was a concern that 1E is getting more than 2E, and I just don't think that you can compare them linearly like that. You know, I think it's like being upset that an apple is more red than an orange. They're not really the same. There are similarities, but they are not the same beast. And that's just this, you know, and even we're looking now at like, maybe we're making too many. Maybe we scale back. You know, we're going from 3 set blocks to 2 set blocks. So it's going to be, there are changes happening. I just didn't know if the organization as a whole had an opinion about our card throughput. You know, are we making too many cards per calendar year for people to handle? That's the big question that I wanted to make sure we talked about.
I've never been able to use all the cards, even when it was Decipher, so doesn't matter to me.
I think that's very true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that for me, if we feel comfortable with the level of play testing. So for instance, like with the Omega directive, I think one of the reasons that it is like it actually did go through a lot of play testing. I saw a lot of play test reports on the Omega directive. And so I feel like part of the reason that that's gotten a positive response is because the cards none of them seem too bananas. So if we can keep a good level of play testing, I think that's sort of our metric for when we should, when and how much we release. But that's always going to be an ongoing thing.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything on that? I think everybody spoke to that. So I kind of switched up the order because I figure there's less discussion on some of these. But for next one, why don't we try the topic of changing bylaws to reflect Department of First Edition reorganization according to the balance team, which is still like, that's not finalized, but I think we were adding this to the agenda just to kind of put it out there that this is something that could happen. I don't think we're planning to change the bylaws today, but it's just a topic, I think.
So I haven't publicly spoken about this yet because still talking about it internally, but the core issue is that the bylaws specify you have to have a design team, a testing team, a rules team, and an errata team. It does not specify that you can have other teams, and it does not specify that you can change any of the scope of those teams. It mandates A, B, C, and D. So if we wanted to do something even as simple as changing the name of one of those teams, it would require a change to the bylaws. If I wanted to create a new team to do, I'm trying to think of an actual example, but I can't think of one. So let's say the flavor team. If I wanted to create a flavor team, I couldn't actually do that right now. And I'm talking, sorry, let's change it to the color team because they have a creative team already. If I wanted a color team that was a dedicated team that worked under me and it had a specific set of responsibilities, I can't actually do that under the current bylaws, as I understand them. So the point that I was trying to make was, if we ever want to make a change to these sections, can we change them in such a way that empowers, and this isn't just a 1E thing, this also applies to every department, that empowers the directors to make some structural changes to their teams without having to go through changing the entire bylaw process. That was the biggest, the ultimate issue. Nothing to do with a specific change of a team directly, but that was just sort of an impetus for this coming up. So.
I don't think, I mean, as long as you still have those 4 core committees per the bylaws, I mean, if you changing the structure of those 4 committees, they're still being used. I don't think we need to change the bylaws for that, because you're not removing a committee, like getting rid of errata or getting rid of creative and it's going to go to design or whatever. I don't think.
Well, he wants to rename the errata team the balance team.
And then
Yeah, so that's, and you know, if he wants to rebrand that, that's, you know, I don't have any objection to
It-
that. So I'm okay with opening things up so that we can give you more flexibility, uh, to give more flexibility to people to change the structure of their teams and, you know, do things like, so like technically speaking, there's no position of playtest manager mentioned anywhere in the bylaws. So, you know, then that's not an allowed thing, technically speaking. So we can change things around in the bylaws so that you can so that you have some more flexibility. So it's a little more general, you know, flexibility in your in order to structure your teams.
I have a question about when the bylaws were originally formed. What was the like the reasoning for including each kind of sub team in the bylaws themselves? Like, was there some push to get these teams defined as something we have to have in our organization, or was it just, were they just intended as examples of what, you know, each department was responsible for?
My intent was formalizing what was already there. Just to say, like, we have these are the positions, and these, you know, these are the teams that we have within the structure, and, you know, we'll have managers for each of these teams, so that, you know, so those positions would be formalized, and, you know, these things exist, you know, kind of thing.
Okay. So at the time, was there any sort of pushback about, how do I want to phrase this? So that, like, the directors weren't, you know, dictators of that department, where the managers were specifically put in the rule or in the bylaws so that, you know, the director of at the time couldn't just sweep everyone out and just completely reorganize everything. Was that was the bylaws put in place in that way as some sort of protection against that, or was it really just like, this is what we're doing, so this is what we're putting in the bylaws?
yeah, I think there's a clause in the bylaws. I don't know exactly which section it is in, that the managers have ability to question the director's leadership, I believe. Did we put that in, Meg, or did we take it out?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. I think we had, I know we had at least talked about putting in sort of a fail safe where the managers within a team could do a, you know, like a no confidence thing, but I don't think we actually ended up putting that into the bylaws at the end of the day. I would have to go back. Honestly, I'd have to go back and check. But my reasoning for having those descriptions in there was just to basically say this is the thing that we're doing right now. That was my main reason, as I remember it, for having those in there, that they, you know, to sort of formalize the position and, you know, possibly who's a green badge.
Okay. Well, I think all of these issues then are something we have to keep in mind if we do eventually change those bylaws, so that it allows either more flexibility or just we start adding to the bylaws to include, you know, more teams that the directors want. So but either way, I guess the way it looks, we have to keep into consideration too. And we're not making that change now. So it was just supposed to be a discussion on how these things might, you know, come into effect later if that's what was decided by the directors. All right, so the last thing I have on the agenda for new business is the COVID Relief Fund. A member of our community brought up the idea of having a charitable fund to help other members of our community who might be struggling with, financially during the pandemic. Maybe you lost your job, maybe you got furloughed for a while. Somebody else suggested that the continuing committee might help facilitate that. And none of us are lawyers, I don't believe. So the closest thing to an expert we have, and you may be the best expert, Justin, is you. So what do you think about that topic?
I mean, yeah, after I have the apparently uncanny knack of falling for people, thinking the better out of people and not thinking the bigger picture. But yeah, no, I mean, from a legal standpoint, I think it comes to like with the fundraising, so the charities and then and everything. But I think we definitely, if we want to really do this, we probably need to find an expert to advise us, to make sure we don't do anything stupid or illegal, and then the money gets seized or whatever, because that would not be good.
What about instead of a unofficial, instead of having us do anything, can we just set up a semi-official have a penny, take a penny thread where you're like, post here if you need some help, and then people see that and then they can help that person directly, rather than it going to like I can just go on and say, hey, I can't make my electric bill. Can somebody Venmo me $100? And then people can do that. And then is that type of thing allowed? But we're not involved, but we're just sort of, as a message board, we're allowing people to do it.
It's on our forums, and we're not using our Promenade. We're not using any of our PayPal. We're not using, and they're doing all offsite personally. I wouldn't see why we can't do that. Like, we're just the communication. Well,
I mean, there is the aspect of becoming a means of money laundering, and not that that's what would
Yes.
happen, but that is the legal implication on which someone would go, you can't be doing this, you know?
Mm.
My opinion on this is I would rather us not be involved. Like, yeah, I feel for people who are having a tough time financially right now. If I knew of somebody in our community who needed that help, I'll send them money. That's something that I would do, but I feel very, very uncomfortable with any sort of formal, the continuing committee formally doing anything. So, and I am nervous about, I'm just nervous because I don't know the legal implications of any of this stuff.
The research that I did do suggested that as the 501c7 organization, we couldn't do charitable donations and then use that money as like a social cause type thing, which would be funneling money to some other member of our community. That as a C7, that is one of the biggest no-nos that would get your corporate license revoked, and probably the board members investigated for fraud. As a 501c3, charitable organizations can take charitable donations and then put them into charitable causes, helping the poor and whatnot. But that's not us. I don't think we're legally allowed to do that. Like, we can do fundraisers, but fundraisers where we earn money from someone that's not a member of our community, that would mean paying taxes on that money. That's all taxed income to the organization. Charitable donations are not a thing we can accept, and they're not a thing we can really do either legally. That's just from the stuff that I've read the past week and a half looking into it. And I'm not a lawyer, so again, anything you've seen, Justin, that would give you an indication otherwise on that?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's there's if we wanted to research this, there's a lot that would go into it, and so it's like we don't, and I'm actually inclined with Maggie to if people want to do this offline, you know, if they want to, if the community is small enough to where people know each other, and if they want to reach out, like John, like for example, John has reached out to certain members of the community when he was in trouble offline. And so I think if they want to reach out privately, because I think that money is a private thing. And if we put it on the forums, if they say they're having trouble, then it gets to the public, and then it, you know, can be a spot for ridicule, and it can be a very sensitive subject, you know. A lot of us are lucky to still have a job. A lot of us have lost our jobs, and that can be a very hard reality. And so I think, yeah, the one-off cases, if you're in trouble and you want to reach out to a friend that you know you trust, that's up to those individuals to do that. Like Maggie said, if she knew that her friends were in trouble, she would try to probably help. And I know a lot of other people probably would as well. So.
Okay, anybody else? Charlie, Nick, any thoughts, or should we move on?
Not really. I'm inclined to agree with Maggie and Justin. It's a bit of a dodgy grey area that we probably don't want to get involved in.
Okay. I think that's everything on the agenda for this time. So I haven't seen any messages or anything from anyone for public comment. Did anyone else see anything? No.
Nope.
I've been following the YouTube comments, and there's no questions or anything, but lots of use of banana emojis at the moment. And somehow the live long and prosper plus banana emoji equals flatbreads. Thank you, Sasha. I'm not sure where that comes from, but all right.
Okay. Yeah, so right now it's looking like May 31st might be the next meeting, tentatively. Otherwise, might be the week before that. So, shall we adjourn? Anyone have anything else you want to do before we adjourn? Nope.
No, I'm fine. I'll move to adjourn.
All right. Can we get a second then?
I'll second.
All right. Charlie seconds. Then no objections. We will adjourn and consider this meeting finished.